Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Meeting Gold Show. I want to thank you for joining us today. And we have a special guest, Executive Director at Wellspring.
Wellspring, Niagara. They asked me to put together a business plan to determine if there was a need and if it could be financially sustained in Niagara as well. How am I going to do this?
That fear of death is smaller than that fear of not living the life you are still given.
Yes. I just believed in it. You know, when you lose someone, you want to leave that legacy. You want people to remember them, right? And say, you know what, I've done everything. It was a terrible time. There was a lot of fear. No one knew what to say.
Was you doing this helping you manage the grief of losing your brother?
What's going on, Meeting Gold listeners? It's Chris Battaglia, 416 Coffee. Use the coupon code Meeting Gold to get 10% off your first order at 416 Coffee. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Meeting Gold Show. I want to thank you for joining us today, and we have a special guest. And your position at Wellspring.
I'm the Executive Director.
Executive Director at Wellspring.
Wellspring, Niagara.
Wellspring, Niagara.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this a little bit off camera about why you started Wellspring and what you're doing now. You're also you've got an incredible voice along with your two other sisters. You guys crush it. I love it. And we'll have to pop in a little clip of some singing there because I think the vibes match. It's good vibes. It's happy, right?
Thanks.
But I want to thank you for coming on today. And we're going to talk a little bit about why you brought Wellspring to Niagara, what the inspiration was behind that. And obviously I've heard a little bit of the story, and I think it's just a beautiful story all around. And so can you kind of give me a little background to the inspiration of Wellspring and what brought that upon you to bring it here?
Sure. Yeah, no. So it's a personal story. It started with my brother Aldo. He's my youngest brother. I'm a family of 7. Aldo was the baby, and I'm number 6. So we were pretty close in age. And Aldo was diagnosed with cancer in 1998, and it was a pretty devastating diagnosis. He was diagnosed with malignant melanoma, and unfortunately, it was very aggressive, and he passed away in the following year. So within a year, he was gone.
How old was he?
He was 31 when he passed away.
It was shocking.
It was shocking, I think, really devastating for our family. And he was a really incredible young man with people. I still run into people who always talk about Aldo and what a dynamic individual he was. He was married, and he was diagnosed the day actually his son was born, and he passed away a week after his son turned 1.
Really?
Yeah.
So he passed away within basically a year.
Yes, that's what it was.
Wow.
A year and a week. So it was.
So what was that year like for him?
Well, he was obviously, being diagnosed with that, a devastating diagnosis. There was a lot of, he was faced with a lot of turmoil and fear and, everything that comes with being diagnosed with cancer, that uncertainty. And the whole family, everyone is just dealing and reeling, not knowing what to do, not knowing what to expect. So he looked for avenues of support in Niagara, and there was nothing here to connect with other people. And even though he had a big family and we were all very close, I think just knowing you could connect with other people who were diagnosed with cancer. So he thought that, maybe this is a reason why I've got cancer. Maybe this is something I'd like to start. Mm-hmm. So he actually started the initiative and had a dream to develop a cancer support center and have a place where people in Niagara could come together and be together and support each other. So unfortunately, Aldo, was, again, a very aggressive diagnosis. But before he passed away, he made me promise to continue with his efforts.
What to you, being given that level of responsibility, mm-hmm. was it something you were excited about? Was it something you felt almost liable for? Like, what was the feeling for you being asked that?
Yeah, at the time it was like, well, I can't do this. Like, where am I supposed to, how am I going to do this? I don't have the experience. And he said, no, you'll do it. I know you can. And he gave me a list of people and names and to contact. He had like the people that, here, you talk to these people and they'll help you. And at the time it was, I guess it became like, I sat with it for a little while. What would I do? Where, how would I begin this? But then it became almost like a focus of, it was supportive for me because I had something to focus on, and it kept Aldo close to me, if that makes any sense. You know, he was still present in my life, and to focus on something. So one of the things that, I thought, well, we'll see what happens. And I really didn't, I thought it would take many years for it to happen. But I approached an existing center that existed in Toronto that Aldo was aware of, and it was called Wellspring, and it was in this little coach house. And I knew of Wellspring because I was living in Toronto at the time, and I was referred to Wellspring as a caregiver, and I had gone to Wellspring to check it out and to receive support. And he was really impressed with that, and that's what really kind of gave him that idea, well, we need a place like that here in Niagara. So I went to Wellspring and I said, this is what my brother asked me to do. Can we bring a Wellspring to Niagara? So they asked me to put together a business plan and to determine if there was a need and if it could be financially sustained in Niagara as well.
Of course,
because as a not-for-profit, it would have to be financially sustained from community support. So that's what we did, and at the time it was almost like serendipity. Everything kind of came together. I met the right people. Like it was almost like doors open, and I didn't know how they opened. I met while I had put together a business plan. I mean, I didn't even know where to start because here my background is in music and in theater.
You were the theater kid,
right? Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So so when I started putting that together, and I was introduced to a gentleman and his wife who were looking to do the same thing in Niagara, and this was Dr. Udayan Rege and his wife Kanchan. Dr. Rege was a professor at Brock University and head of the business and finance department.
Interesting.
And he was living with his diagnosis, and he helped me put together my business plan.
I want to go back one step because this is an incredible story, and we're definitely going to dive deeper into it. Mm-hmm. But I want to touch on when Aldo asked you to do this. Mm-hmm. Was you doing this helping you manage the grief of losing your brother?
No question, for sure.
In what way? Can you describe that to me?
I think, again, he just was ever present in my life every day. I talked about him every day.
You guys were very close, I take it.
We were very close, yeah. And I tell his story, and he was like such a vibrant personality. I mean, if you had met him, everyone, who knew him, really, he was dynamic. And up until he died, he still had this vibrant spirit and just he consoled everybody else, right? So he was ever present in my life, and maybe to a detriment, I would think that maybe it pushed my grief a little bit further out, because I would say like a few years out, I really dealt with a lot of the loss and really grieving him more.
Interesting. So a couple years later, you dealt with that harder. So that's why, let me ask you this then. In some ways, some people want to find distractions to not deal with the grief when losing a loved one. So in some ways, would you say that it was almost a little bit of a distraction?
I don't know if it was a distraction, but it became a focus for me. I became kind of obsessed with it. I also believed in it because I knew that I used the services in Toronto, right? So I knew this was it helped me, and I knew that it was a place that the rest of my family and Aldo could have benefited from. So it became, I just believed in it. I felt, I just really wanted to do this for Aldo. I wanted to leave a legacy for him. And I guess that's where it starts. When you lose someone, you want to leave that legacy. You want people to remember them, right? You don't want to, and that was, in many ways, I think selfish on my part, I guess, like I wanted people to remember Aldo forever. And, but then it just kind of grew and grew quickly. So from when we started, it just developed so fast that I almost didn't have time to grieve anymore. We were just trying to keep things going so we can keep up with the demand of what was of the needs.
So let's talk about that. Before we continue on with the story about you bringing it here, can you just quickly touch on what is Wellspring?
So Wellspring is a cancer support center, and the model with a model and mission to provide supportive, rehabilitative, social, informational needs to cancer patients and their family, and providing these services free of charge.
Free of charge. That's a big one.
Yeah.
So is that something that is non-negotiable for you guys when you started this?
Yes, non-negotiable. That's part of the mission and mandate of Wellspring, that the programs are provided free of charge.
And what programs are those? Because you were, I have your papers that you were showing me here, and you were telling me you guys have a lot of people you work with to help basically assist somebody in living with cancer. Yeah. And I thought about it, and I asked you this off camera, and I want to bring it up on camera. You don't have to come up with a percentage, but am I correct in saying that majority of people diagnosed with cancer are living with it? Then it's not like an immediate death.
No, it's not.
And sometimes it's not even a death. Sometimes it's just like so painful, but it's for years.
Yeah, well, people are living with cancer now, and I think there from the years that we've been involved since when we opened our doors in 2001, you've seen that treatment has changed. People are living longer. Some cancers are becoming more chronic illnesses. So research has come a long way. Treatments have come a long way. So we are witnessing that. And so a cancer diagnosis doesn't mean it has to be, it's terminal. But I think what people feel, and I think that's the first thing that people feel, is like that uncertainty, the unknown, and
even families too.
Oh, for sure, everybody.
So tell me a little bit about when Aldo was diagnosed. What was the reaction amongst the family? Because you guys seem like a pretty tightly knit family. Very
tight family, and especially Aldo was like being the youngest, and again, like I said, he was just this really incredible kid and full of life. He really was. When you say, you never think that someone's kind of the glue of the family. He really held things together. I think as the baby brother, everybody just loved Aldo, right? And it was a terrible time. There was a lot of fear. No one knew what to say. I know for myself, you want to try to be up and you want to be positive. You don't want to be negative. You don't want to show negativity. So you're almost building these, I call them the walls of protection go up. You put walls of protection around everybody. So you don't want to, everyone's being careful and walking on eggshells. And, but we're all dying. We're all, struggling.
Absolutely.
And breaking down.
Yep.
And then, it was very traumatic for our family. And I think, it impacted each one of us, all of our lives, personally. I don't think you talk to each one of my family member. My mother, who losing her son was devastating for her. But we all were impacted, and I think if you asked each one of us, we would say that it was probably a life-changing event, losing Aldo.
I want to ask you about that. What was one thing that you learned about that whole situation that you could pull out as a positive? Other than maybe necessarily Wellspring, as I'm sure Wellspring has taught you a lot about business, about cancer patients, about life in general. But just in that situation, what is something that you got out of that actually adjusted your outlook on life?
Yeah, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think just really embracing the people around you, life, and focusing on what's important.
Appreciation
and focusing on what's important. you know. I also learned I lost all that inhibition of fear too, because the biggest thing that I feared was losing him.
Wow. So so that went away, and it more just embraced the moments.
Yeah. I mean, what was I going to be afraid of now? Really, what sort of fear?
Yeah.
The worst thing happened, as
Right.
far as I was concerned. Losing a family member was a terrible, and losing someone like him. So that was, I take that as, at that time, it was a positive for me personally.
Right.
Because I grew from this. You know, I not only just Wellspring, but I just grew from just this whole experience.
Yeah, just your outlook on life.
Yeah.
You know, I find it interesting. I've interviewed another individual who lost his brother in a time when he was diagnosed and needed heart surgery that same week, and he didn't know if he was going to survive. And I asked him this question. I'm going to ask you the same question, and it's playing devil's advocate in a way. It's a more negative outlook on society. I feel as if society needs negative things to happen in order for them to appreciate the positive things. Is that a good or bad thing? Do you think that's just, call it the way of the road, or do you think that is something that we need as a society to fix?
I think it's just part of our personal journey and everyone's journey.
I've never heard that answer before. I love that.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of growing and growth and maturity. And, you know, society puts a lot of expectations on it, or we put it on ourselves, right? We have to be successful. We have to, like, you know, have the you know, whatever, if it's the material things that everyone else has, right? Or, but I think, you know, unfortunately, having a devastating situation is where we grow, where we learn and develop as human beings. I think it's just part of being human.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's always been there in
Humans
history.
adapt. Humans
adapt.
Change. We're smarter now than we were 50 years ago.
You know, and hopefully we can, from our experiences, we can share our experiences so that we teach the younger generation
Exactly
to
what's
not
happening
fear
now,
and integrate that. When we bring in our own, you know, and adults, you know, bring in our own insecurities into, you know, family units or fears and all of that, that does impact everybody. So I think if we have been given an opportunity to grow from a negative situation, I feel that, you know, a responsibility to share that positiveness of what I've learned, or the, you know, the negatives that I've learned, or the challenges that I've experienced, to share that, right?
So let me ask you this next question, then we can continue to talk about how Wellspring has grown. You're around, and you probably have been around, a lot of cancer patients, correct?
Yes.
Do you find that upon them being diagnosed with cancer, I feel as if there's two roads that they can take. They can choose to allow their mind to be a victim to what has happened, or they can choose to allow that to empower them to embrace every moment. What do you find is the road that most people choose?
If they come to Wellspring, it's number 2.
And why is that?
As they're searching for something, they need something to help them through this devastating time or this situation that they just don't know where to turn. And I think I've heard it so often. I mean, now I've been around for so many years. I've heard people say to me, and you wonder and you go, wow, how can that be? Again, looking at the negative, something negative, it's changed their lives. You know, they'll say to me, I'm a different person, or the things I've learned that I've taken away from what I've learned at Wellspring, I put into my life, and I feel like what I've learned, or I've grown. I'm a more positive person. That they wouldn't want to go back to who they were prior to their diagnosis, which really blows my mind when I hear that, right? And and I hear that very often. You know, I mean, there are so many people that are challenged, and it may take them a while to find and get to that point. But when they do, I can only feel, when I hear it and when they tell me, it must be the most freeing thing that, you know, to feel that you're the person who you feel like you were meant to be.
And you're almost, and maybe I'm wrong, but this fear of death might go away. I don't think it'll ever go away. I think that's what keeps us human.
Yes.
But that fear of death is smaller than that fear of not living the life you are still given.
Yes.
And that is where I find a lot of people only realize until they see death.
Yeah, for sure.
As a very liable option. And
Yeah.
and that's what they see. And that wakes people up.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to, you told me off camera, the way that you said it, it's
Hope I remember what I said.
it's mind-boggling. Well, you said, I wrote up a business plan and I approached a couple people. You just said now, some people went up to you and you got in touch. But, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Wellspring is one of the biggest organizations for cancer patients in Ontario, if not Canada, that, is around. It's pretty astounding, how many years ago now?
Well, Wellspring Niagara, this past June, we celebrated 21 years.
21 years.
Yeah. But the model of Wellspring's been around.
Thousands of people helped. Take me through that journey there. What was the driving factor and motivating factor for you to grow this?
The people that were coming. We had no choice. It started with, I said, a dream, or a promise to my brother. That's what it was. And that was the driving factor. I promised him. And, and then so it was started to happen. The right people came around. We, like I mentioned, Dr. Reggae, but then other people that formed a committee that came together and believed in it. And we were able to start up this little center with literally just enough money to pay the rent and provide some services. We had 35 volunteers trained. We had one staff person. I was still living in Toronto and commuting all the time. Wow. And we had 5 programs ready to go. And we just hoped that someone would come through the doors.
So 5 of these programs.
Yes.
So now I see you have much more than 5.
We have we offer like over 40 different types of programs.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And with industry professionals.
Yes.
Like it's not just, they come in and it's just a group of talking. It is like with serious professionals, they're taken care of. They feel confident that there is hope. So I want to ask, when somebody comes to Wellspring, what is the reason that they come? Is it, I got diagnosed with cancer, I need help with just dealing with cancer? Or is it their mindset?
It's everything. Could be, it varies. It could be that, first of all, they've just been diagnosed and now what? Now what? What happens? I don't know, how am I going to work? How am I going to deal with my kids at home? How am I going to tell my kids? How am I going to, go back to work after I've been through treatment for 6 months? How will I manage that? I'm not, I have brain fog. I'm not functioning properly. Just everything's changed. Financially, I don't know what to do. We have some big decisions to make, or it could be a variety of reasons. But the first time that they come, and when someone does call or something, and they'll say like, I've been diagnosed, or a loved one's been diagnosed, what do we do? And I tell them, just come and just meet with a volunteer and sit with them and learn about our services and learn what's here and see the center. Because once they do come, they really realize what a special place it is. It's very home-like, it's very warm. And then there's no right or wrong way to participate in Wellspring programs. It's really where the person's at that moment. And we navigate them to where they are in their journey. So whether it's that they're newly diagnosed and they're just terrified. So let's get them some support at that point that they need. Let's get them maybe into some coping strategy programs that will help them with their mindfulness, right? To help deal with when they're feeling anxiety, maybe to calm down, some breathing techniques, those things that are just so simple. And then maybe it's that they're in treatment and they're completing their treatment. Now, how do we help them with their recovery? We get them into rehab and we get them into helping build their strength and stamina and get back to a healthier lifestyle. again, providing those coping strategies, whether it's in nutrition or whether it's getting them to speak to someone about finances and to deal with, how will I manage my money while I'm...
That's actually, and my dad, right?
Yeah.
So I found that interesting that you brought that up because I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
From a financial perspective, everything changes.
Oh, for sure, right?
Everything.
So we encourage, we have experts that will sit down and in a confidential setting and talk to them about what resources might be there, even for drug resources, drug funding, or other resources that might be available, how to, apply for even, disability while you're in treatment. So helping navigate kind of the government programs that are available and maybe some other funding programs that are available, but also just kind of putting strategies in place to help them make better decisions for themselves while they're going through this period of time.
You brought up an interesting point, volunteer. And that is something that I want to talk about because it is extremely impressive. You guys it's a completely free platform for any cancer patients coming in.
Right.
And from my knowledge, and I want to touch on this, this is a complete non-for-profit. It's 0%, no funding from other individuals other than just pure public.
It's community supported, 100%. And every Wellspring Center, so now there's 8 Wellspring Centers in Canada, just so you know, but we're independent of each other. So we're just follow the same model of programs. So the quality of programs is where that comes from.
Who came up with the model?
It was founded just over 30 years ago, I think. I think they're like in 30-year anniversary. It was a woman by the name of Anne Armstrong Gibson, and she was a lawyer in Toronto. And quite young. She was in her 40s when she was diagnosed, and she had a young family. And there was nowhere to go. And so, but she had the wherewithal and the knowledge, she just, the gumption to bring together experts in the field of oncology. So she went right to the top, like the head of oncology at Princess Margaret Hospital, head of psychosocial oncology. She brought people together that were really working in the field. And at that time, supportive care in cancer was not a very... Now there's more of it now.
Now there's a lot.
Even if you think about, yoga and cancer or things like that, like even then yoga 30
there's
years.
There's yoga now.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah. So it was a model that was developed to complement. It wasn't to, it was to complement the treatment side of things. So it wasn't about the medical side. It was all about the whole body, the person, body, mind, and spirit, and how do they help them with that. So that's how the model was developed with these experts in the field of oncology. And she really was the instigator for that. And unfortunately, I never met her. She passed away, I think, in the mid-90s. But I've heard a lot about her. I actually was fortunate enough to meet some of her colleagues that she worked with in a firm in Toronto that found out I was starting it, and we met, and they wanted just to share with me who Anne was, and so I always felt like all my life that I felt a connection to her, because I really think what she established was something very unique and something that it's a unique model right across the country.
Because at the end of the day, we were saying this is, it's a business.
Yep.
Everything's a business. Everything has to make money because at the end of the day, people have to make money to survive. It's just the way the world works. And you guys providing a level of support that actually allows people to, in situations that they may not be able to work,
for sure,
not have to, and still survive.
And the last thing that we want to do is have people worry about, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to, how much does this cost me? And it's like, it's nothing. But thanks through our community. Yeah. Every Wellspring Center is supported by the community that they're in. So Niagara, 100% of everything we raise stays right here in Niagara for the people of Niagara who are impacted by cancer. So we couldn't be providing these services. And the reason why we're providing so many is because we have a wonderful community that we live in. And we couldn't be, we couldn't do it. And we're meeting numbers now. Since coming back from COVID, we're seeing increases in numbers. We've increased our new membership registration 51%.
Wow. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
That's incredible.
It's absolutely crazy.
So who's in, like, how does this money get raised?
Every way we can raise it. It could be through corporate donors. It could be through grants that we apply for, community foundations, individuals who support us, through efforts like the Ranking Cancer Run, if you've heard of that.
Yes, absolutely.
One of our biggest supporters, and I'll tell you, every money that we receive from the Ranking Cancer Run goes right to our programs. That's why we could do the programs that we do. It doesn't go to anything else. It goes to our programs.
Interesting. So you guys are, okay, so a lot of these, because you see a lot of these cancer charitable events and stuff like that coming up, like the Ranker Cancer Run and more coming, you guys will be one of the places that they would...
Well, the Rankin Cancer Run for sure is probably our biggest supporter, and that is a community event. That money stays in Niagara, and it goes to cancer needs, cancer services in the Niagara region. So it makes a huge impact. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of events, and we do events ourselves. We have a big gala coming up in a couple of weeks that we do every year. And we're now with post-COVID, because COVID was a real big challenge for us. I mean, everything changed. Our center closed, and we had to take our programs virtually, online. And we, our fundraising efforts, everything that we do, because we rely on events, we rely on third-party events. They all dried up. So we had to find ways to raise the money. The Rankin Cancer Run didn't happen for 2 years. So there was also that impact.
Yeah.
So, we had to find different ways to raise the money. Fortunately, we managed, we kept going, and I think we didn't stop. I mean, when even taking our programs online, that we had maybe a week of where we had to figure things out, and then brought our programs back to people. And that actually helped to be part of a network of centers, because even though we're independent of each other, when COVID hit, it was like, oh my gosh, now what do we do? So we kind of banded together in the beginning and started sharing some programs.
Interesting.
And then from there, then we could build our program rapport and build it up over time as COVID continued. And what happened though is that, the positives came from that is that now the Wellspring model expanded, rather than just in the communities that they were supporting with the centers in Ontario and the 3 in Alberta, it now became national. And even to this day, some of our programs are now hybrid, and they'll remain hybrid because we have people all over Canada in some of our groups.
That want to be a part of that.
So now you might have a larger group of people, but they're not just in Niagara, but they're now, coming in and zooming in from BC, Newfoundland, Quebec, and other remote areas.
Yeah, which is the best thing, I think. I would equate it to Elon Musk starting Starlink. Starlink is only available in the most remote, quiet areas in North America.
That's right.
Which is actually really interesting, because he recognizes that people in those areas don't have a connection to Wi-Fi or internet of any kind. I wanted to ask you, cancer. Mm-hmm. Cancer is, can you tell me, what is cancer? Can you describe what cancer is like?
Medically, I can't, because I'm not a healthcare professional, so I'm not a doctor or nurse. But what is it like? It's it's a disease that can overtake not only the body, but everything else in terms of the uncertainty of it all, the unknown of it. For many, you don't see it. It's sometimes you don't know it's there, right, until the symptoms arise. So it's this, it's a disease that unfortunately any living cell in your body can be impacted, right? anything that, it doesn't matter where in your body, cancer can form anywhere, right? So it's this insidious disease that is just, that's how I look at this. Yeah, it's an invader.
Yeah.
Right?
They say the best things in life you stumble upon.
Yeah.
Would you say that you stumbled upon Wellspring and everything that has happened in the last 21 years for you?
Yeah, I feel like it's been part of my journey for a reason. I went through a lot of, throughout the 20 years, a lot of different emotions. At the beginning, like I said, it became this mission to do this for Aldo, and it was a dream. And then it became all of a sudden this huge responsibility because people were coming. So, from that first year, start providing services to 70 people to before we left, moved to our new building, we were providing service to 800 individuals, and over 8,000 program attendances a year. So it was, people were coming and they were needing it. So it became this huge responsibility, and then dealing with, just all these different emotions of, am I meant to be here? Can I do what I'm doing? Do I have the skills and the qualifications? I certainly have the passion for it because I believe in it. But I, went through all of these just different emotions throughout the 20 years. And I think now, I feel that it is part of my life's journey. I am looking forward to the future of the organization. I know when I'm looking forward to the day I can step away and say, you know what, I've done everything I can now. Now it's up to the community to allow it to flourish and grow. I think what I've been able to bring to it is just to ensure that the sustainability is there for the organization and
Absolutely.
the growth, right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like we said, it's a business.
Yeah.
If the care behind its growth goes away, which you so have a passion for, it's going to hurt, right? And so you need that consistent base at which the company can grow and that structure. And it sounds like the structure is definitely there. Let me ask you this, for Wellspring, is this something you envision to be international?
I think the model is growing internationally, and every center started with an Aldo story. Everyone has its own Aldo story, like Ann Armstrong Gibson in Toronto, and then there was someone in Calgary and someone in London and someone in, Brampton and, and someone in, Edmonton. And so there was always an individual who wanted to bring a cancer support center or bring a Wellspring center to their community. But what's happening now, I think now what COVID has allowed it to do is really branch out and become more national in different ways than what we've experienced. So it's a reputable organization. We are recognized in the cancer care community as an important resource, and a very vital resource. We're supporting also our healthcare practitioners, the doctors and nurses who are working in oncology, because they don't have the time. They're so busy meeting the demands of the growth of cancer,
right.
And just treating those patients. We are a wonderful resource for them to refer to their patients, even though you don't need a referral to come to Wellspring. But we've heard many times, we're so fortunate that Wellspring's here because it does help us we're not here, we don't have the time to deal with all the other aspects of cancer besides the medical side of it.
The actual medical side.
So I think it's been it's enhanced the cancer care community and we're impacting lives. We see it. I like to say that people live well, and improve their quality of life and get back to their life. We're doing our job if we know that when they come to Wellspring that they don't, we love it if they say, well, we don't need you anymore. We want to now go out,
Right.
we've done our job.
Yep.
Or when they come back, we don't have to recruit for volunteers because most of our volunteers were our members, and now they still want to stay involved but give back in other ways by providing peer support.
And do you find that a lot?
Oh yeah. We don't have to worry about our volunteer recruitment is actually, it's not difficult.
It's almost just self-sustainable.
It's people that they use the services, they want to stay involved. It becomes like a family, and it becomes their network, and they want to give back. They want to give back to what what they've received, and they've seen, and they know that impact and the importance of it. So we've got great. I mean, I think that's what, when you come to Wellspring, and you'll have to come to the center, because I think when people say that they feel this sense of welcoming and it's very calm, but it's very warm and inviting. Mm-hmm. And it's not even though we have a beautiful center now that we built through, community dollars and it's a wonderful place. It's not the bricks and mortars, it's the people that are in there. Mm-hmm. And that's what creates that warmth and that feeling of safe, that safe haven, that safe space. And that's the people. Because we have, I think, honestly, the best people that, if they're involved with Wellspring, they want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And it shows.
Yeah.
Over the last 21 years, you've shown a passion and a drive to grow the company, but help more people. And that comes with the growth.
Yeah.
And to close off today, do you have any advice for any individual who is going through a situation that you guys at Wellspring help with? What advice would you give to somebody like that?
Like someone who's just been diagnosed or going through a cancer journey themselves? Reach out, find resources that are available to help you through whatever you're going through emotionally. Bring a team together, and that includes look for resources. So whether it's Wellspring or whether it's other resources, supportive care unit, don't be alone. You don't have to be alone. Mm-hmm. Reach out, because you can do so much more when you have people around you to support you and help you through your journey. And even though it's a scary time, there's people that will help you through those scary times, and we'll get you through. So, but just reach out and look for those resources, whatever they are. Don't be afraid. Don't be alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on today and joining me on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you liked this episode of the Meeting Gold Show, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and down below. And anybody who can reach out to Wellspring or you, what can they do?
Check out our website and visit wellspringniagara.ca, and everything's there. Or they can call the center, and our phone number's online. Follow us on social media. We do have Facebook and Instagram and all of that. So follow us and just learn about our services. Just make a call and check us out.
Just make a call.
Just make a call.
Reach out.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, ladies, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.